There's been a few updates to Tarkov's PVE game mode, and of course today we are going to be talking about marked rooms, because marked rooms have received a huge increase in the loot that they are going to drop you, alongside now being able, because of the softcore changes added into PVE, the ability to pick up cases within the marked rooms once again, like it was previously possible to do so. However, there are more cases that can spawn in marked rooms now because there are more cases. Things like, for example, keycard cases, thick items cases, plate cases. All of the cases can basically be found within the marked rooms themselves, making them very, very juicy. And then with the addition of keycard spawns being pretty darn incredible within the marked rooms themselves, means that you could potentially make some money. However, there's some issues, and I think I wanted to talk about whether or not this is actually a good change for the long term of Tarkov's PvE game mode, because whilst it might be amazing that at level 1 you can basically get yourself a marked room key guaranteed by playing on a scav, going onto woods and finding the marked room bunker and basically searching the cultist circle, finding yourself a marked room for free, which is typically very expensive if you wanted to purchase them off of the flea, with dorms marked room keys being in excess of I think like 60 million right now or something like that to buy a 10 out of 10 use marked room key. It is currently 57.8 million rubles, and of course you can get these relatively easily within probably around 10 raids, I would say, playing on a scav on woods going into the bunker. Now, playing on a scav for some reason seems to be better than playing on a PMC. That's through testing. We've done quite a few testing videos going through the marked room bunker on woods. If you want to go check out that video to find out how to pick up marked room keys for free without spending any money and being pretty darn lucrative whilst you're actually going and farming those marked room keys, let alone getting the marked room keys themselves, you can go and check out that video. It will be in the description of this one. But the idea is that marked room keys have been buffed beyond belief, and that at level 1 you can basically have thick cases out the wazoo, which, whilst it might seem like a good change in terms of quality of life, and by no means am I saying that you should specifically not do this, it is completely up to you how you want to play, and I'm not trying to say that this is the way that I think is the best way to play Escape from Tarkov PvE. That is up to you and whoever plays the game. But what I am trying to say is that having the ability to get all of the best things that you can possibly work towards at the very beginning, with minimal effort really required to actually get them, it really is not difficult to get yourself a marked room key, go in the marked room key, open them up, and with the Alt F4 bug that's still in the game, whereby if you get yourself a dorms marked room key or any map basically that is on a locally hosted server, can be Alt F4'd and you do not count the raid. So you go into the marked room, you see, there's nothing in there that I want. It's pretty crappy loot on the actual marked room itself. I can just Alt F4, and then I don't use the key use, and everything in that raid is effectively counted as like it not being there. So the Alt F4 bug, effectively people are just exploiting the fact that you can just leave a raid with it not counting as a raid at all. And so that is done on a locally hosted server. So obviously you just go in to your map, whatever it is, customs, you go on the server settings, it says play on BSG servers. If you tick that, it's going to be on a live server, which means you can't use the Alt F4. You click it off, you can use the Alt F4, and if you leave, you're not going to end up using any of your key uses, which means you can basically guarantee out of 10 uses that you're going to get really good stuff and make your money back. However, spends a lot of time actually doing that, and not every single opening, in fact probably 1 out of 3 openings with a cost of 6 million rubles per raid, is actually going to be able to be worth opening. It's going to be very, very low in terms of how many times that actually occurs, because the cost of the key is just ridiculous, and I wouldn't recommend buying Dorm's marked room key unless you got to do the quest. But if you don't, definitely do not buy the Dorms Marked Room key. The best key to actually use is the Check 13 key on streets, which you can't Alt F4 out of, alongside the Abandoned Factory Marked Room key. Doing the 2 runs in one raid saves you time, and it also guarantees that you're going to get lots of key cards that you can use on labs, and labs right now is even more broken than it once was. So we'll do a video on that probably tomorrow, going through labs and showcasing off the loot that you can get and why it is the best moneymaker right now, and pretty much has always been one of the best moneymakers on PvE. But obviously the key concept of this video is the fact that going into these rooms seemed to devalue the whole aspect of grinding your way to getting the barters for all of the items. And whilst I am expecting that this is only going to be the case before the release of Tarkov 1.0, which is coming on the 15th of November, put that in your calendars. This is going to be a brilliant time to jump back into PvE and basically go through. In order to access all of the endgame content, you do have to reset your account all the way back to 0. So anything you do right now, if you are planning on getting the end game content, so everything accessible right now will still be accessible on release of Tarkov 1.0. It's just when they add on the additional terminal map, I don't believe you'll be able to actually access that unless you reset your PvE account all the way back to level 1 and go through the entire thing all over again and go through the quest lines, everything as if it was like a hard reset. But obviously it's up to you whether you do reset your account. There is no forced reset. It's up to you if you want to access the new stuff. That is kind of the thing that I hope is the case, is that they are going to kind of change it up and make it so that there is long-term rewards, because I feel like people are going to be less incentivized to open up the marked rooms. Purely on PvE, I think is the main thing, because what it has done to the economy already has just tank the economy into the ground. Because if we were to have a look at yellow keycards, for example, which are super rare, if you actually get these in your raids, so going through the actual keycard spawns on your normal raids, so figuring out where they spawn, the cost of these 300k. It is very cheap, and just finding a Bitcoin in your raid is basically worth getting 3 yellow keycards, and finding a Bitcoin very easy to do if you know all of the loot spots. And so hopefully there is some form of maybe a slight nerf, because I think the population of all of these keycards, whilst it makes it accessible for every single player, it also means that the end game loot doesn't feel as rewarding as it once did when you're picking up literally just trash loot, like Bitcoins, you know, things like golden skulls. It devalues everything of the end game variety, things like the black key card, yellow key card, all of these key cards which are significantly reduced in price. You know, black key cards are not even 1,000,000 rubles right now. And so all of that sort of stuff is just gone through the floor. And as expected, when you just push so many keycards into the market, that's typically what is going to happen. The supply is just outstripping the demand by so much that they become less and less useful, less and less high end. And, you know, when the best key card in the game, being the black key card, is worth less than a Bitcoin, you know, what am I grinding for? Like, it's like, where do I use my rubles? And it means that you're basically not spending any more of your rubles. So rubles become basically, once you got past at least getting yourself 1 thick case, which you can now do in marked rooms at the moment. So if you are a long-term PvE player and you don't want to reset your account, now is an amazing time, because I feel like they're going to probably change it, or at least reduce the spawns of those cases within the marked rooms, because they are mega juiced right now. Like, pretty much everyone that I've gone into has these cases in, has the top tier cases and stuff like that in them. So I doubt that they will keep them at the same rate, even if they do keep them in there. That's why I would highly recommend BSG kind of, they maybe change slightly the rates at which you're getting these to make them a bit more rare, and to make it in line with what the cost of the barter trades are going to be, because all of the items that were valuable that you did find during your raids, picking up random items, things that were used in the barter, they've all tanked in price as well, because no one's doing the barter trades anymore, meaning that all of the barter items have gone down in price, the actual thing has gone down in price, everything's just tanked into the floor, making rubles pretty much pointless, even more so than they already were on PvE. So in terms of economy, it's kind of just dropped everything in the economy massively, and I think that is kind of an issue. The one thing that has gone up in price with the latest changes is ammunition. The top tier ammunition is crazy expensive. Look at this, M80A1, 25,000 rubles per round. That's because you can't put your ammunition in your gamma pouch or whatever. So it is just basically scuffed. Like you can't put any ammunition, so if you get taken out, all your ammunition is gone, so you're going to have to find more ammunition, putting more of an emphasis. I actually like this change. I think it means that it's a bit more, emphasis on trying to stay alive, as well as, finding ammunition spawns within the game and stuff like that. So maybe we'll do a video on where the best ammunition spawns on PvE are. We've done one already, but once again, that will kind of come into the next video tomorrow. But all in all, I think I like the idea of having these cases in the marked rooms. I'm not saying get rid of them. I'm not trying to say BSG should nerf the drop rate. I kind of just, from my own experience, from having reset my account already from an account that had nearly 2 billion rubles and 2.4 billion total stash value or whatever, all the way back to zero. I'm basically set already by just getting one marked room key, by doing the marked room stash at the very beginning, and I never have to worry about money. I never have to actually grind to get any items in the end game. I can buy everything off of the flea if I wanted to. Yeah, it kind of gets to that point where, when you're going into raids, the only emphasis then is basically finding the key cards to use them in labs, and then take out things. There's no real emphasis on getting loot, gathering the loot. The only thing that then becomes a thing is basically finding the hideout items, which you're also going to find in the marked room. You're also going to find as you're going through your raids anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that I like the whole marked room change for PvE. This is PvE only, but I definitely think that they maybe should tweak the drop rates, maybe give you more valuable loot in general within the marked room, bitcoins, the good stuff that's in those, so they feel valuable, but also nerf the drop rates of them to make when you actually find the items that do drop in there, things like black key cards, yellow key cards, so that they're a little bit more valuable, so you feel a bit more rewarded. Because even if you find them in a normal raid, not within a marked room, it's kind of like, it's worse than a Bitcoin. Brilliant. And the chances of finding one in your raid normally is very, very low. The actual drop rate for them is very low, unless you play labs, in which case they've been buffed as well with the latest changes as well. But as I say, I think that this is only something that is occurring during the softcore wipe on PvP, and so I don't think that they'll apply this after 1.0 releases, and I'm sure that maybe they'll do a global loot nerf into the ground to make it a bit more kind of tougher at the beginning, and then they'll kind of ramp them up and the loot up as time goes on and people grind through a little bit more. I think that that's probably what they'll do, but that's kind of my consensus, my review of what they did with the changes recently. I like them. I just don't like the amount of stuff that you're getting in there, because it just devalues everything. Kind of like, well, what's the point? So that is my consensus. Obviously, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I think that the marked rooms are both buffed and also nerfed, because now you're not really making any money, but the price of the actual marked rooms has just stayed the same, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But if you want to make the most out of the money that you're spending on marked room keys, check 13, Abandoned Factory. Those are the two that I would highly recommend. All of the rest of them are just super overpriced, and the money that you're going to make back from them, you may break even, you may lose money, you may make money if you're doing the Alt F4 bug, but it's going to take you a long time, and it's not going to make you enough money to actually warrant going into the marked room, kind of making marked rooms irrelevant, kind of, unless you are specifically playing a hardcore character and you are specifically not using the flea market. I don't think that this is the play to actually go for. And of course, if you are a low level character and you want to get the best items and gear at the very beginning without any real effort kind of involved. I mean, it's just going into a marked room and finding a marked room key, which you can just find naturally playing the game as well, even if you aren't specifically farming marked room keys. Other than that, that is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, we're back to playing PVE. We should be uploading daily on the channel now. Again, I took a little bit break because we had lots of things going on in real life with regards to a house move and stuff like that is still ongoing, but it's pretty much in the final stages now. And then yeah, lots of other things as well. And yeah, hopefully we'll be back to daily content on the channel. And yeah, I am super excited for 1.0 release. We're going to be smashing the game, streaming. You should see me streaming pretty much every single day after 1.0 releases. So hopefully it's an exciting time. I'm really looking forward to jumping back into Tarkov and really smashing it out. I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 6 at the moment, just in anticipation of Tarkov 1.0. But with that, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.